What if I told you that you could fill a raised bed for $0 or you could spend up to $500? Today, I'm going to show you all your options when it comes to how to fill a raised bed. And we're going to go through the pros and cons of each one. I actually am filling, as you can see here in this picture, I have had some beds to fill myself. And I needed to figure out what was the best way to do it, what were my options, how much time did I have to fill up the beds. And so it's that balance between the time, the nutrients, and the money that it costs that it helped me make my decision. And so I want to share this with you. So if that sounds good to you, let's get started. So, like I said before, let me get this right here so I can capture everything. We are looking at filling raised beds today, and I have a complete cost breakdown for you. This is from free to your premium options. You can spend a ton of money filling raised beds. And to be honest with you, that's always been my issue or the biggest hurdle that I've had in filling raised beds. A lot of people want to garden for the cost effectiveness of it, and I am no different. But when I looked into filling so many raised beds, not only the cost of the raised bed was something I had to think about, but then filling it was even more expensive. And I know that that's the case for everyone. My market garden is almost an acre, and those are all in-ground beds that I amend with lots of organic matter. But when I realized that I had a full-sun backyard now, I knew that I needed to find a way to make raised beds somewhat affordable for me. And so this was my way of doing that. So if you remember, Hurricane Helene knocked down a couple of our trees in the backyard. They were both over 100 years old, and they had created a very robust shade canopy. It is what did I call it? It was a mature landscape. And so we have not only lost those trees now for a year, but at the top above that green bucket in this picture, you can see where there's a stump. Actually, I have some things laying on top of it to get some sun, but that is the third tree that we lost in our backyard. We actually took that one out ourselves because it was dangerously close to our house, and we just wanted to make sure that that tree didn't pose any problems. A lot of the trees in our neighborhood now are a bit weakened, have been weakened by the storm and lots of rain since then. So it was something that was good for us, and we decided to do it. You can see here that I have 3 raised beds. The grass is growing. This is now a full sun backyard. And while it's not much to look at, I am super excited about my possibilities that exist now with growing my own food and food for our family in this space. I was excited. We need growing area, but how do I fill this without breaking the bank? How do I fill it in a timely manner? So how do I do all of that? After you watch this video, you are going to know how much it costs to fill raised beds using the various methods that we talk about, exactly how to know which method to choose, including those benefits and drawbacks of each method. And then finally, I'll show you what worked for me and how I made that choice. So let's talk in general about these methods. The various methods, you're going to want to really rely on layering methods. A layering method is the cheapest, and layering allows you to manipulate your layers to provide what your plants need at a cheaper price per layer. So if you imagine that your raised bed does not have to be the same soil throughout, you start to open yourself up to different options. If you were to look at a foot deep raised bed, which all of mine are a foot deep, and you say, oh, okay, well, I've got to have a foot deep of potting soil. Well, that's going to cost you probably a cubic yard, and a cubic yard of potting soil in little tiny bags is going to cost you hundreds of dollars to fill. And you might want to do that. That might be something that's doable for you. You may not care, but a lot of people are doing this to save money. And so we want to understand the idea that to save money, you don't have to fill the bed with the same thing. It doesn't have to be homogeneous throughout. And we have something called the foundation layer. And your foundation layer is the layer that's next to the ground. It provides drainage, and proper drainage for the water to leave the bed will prevent root rot. It promotes healthy root development, and it will ensure that oxygen reaches your plant roots. And so you definitely want to do that. Now, here are some options for your foundation layer. This is the layer that you're not going to see. This is the layer that your roots will grow into over time. And you have some options here. The first option is your free way to go. So do you have sticks, branches, old logs in your yard, or do you know someone who does? Those are free. Those are great ways to fill, you've heard of the hugelkultur method, I'm sure. It's a Northern European method of mimicking nature, really, and putting not, I say large, but maybe like arm diameter size logs in the bottom, and then you've got branches as well, and you're kind of filling up that bottom part of your bed with free material. This is the free material taking up space, and free is the name of the game. So those are your free options: sticks, branches, old logs. The next is a low cost option, which can be fallen leaves. If you collect the leaves that fall on your property, if you have a big leaf pile, if you have to rake them up in the fall, which is what we're about to have to do, you are going to have a large pile of leaves that you could start to put in the bottom of your raised beds. And likewise, you can use composted leaf mulch. This is my savior in many ways, and I'll show you why. Spoiler alert, we use this. I get my composted leaf mulch from a group called Keep Gastonia Beautiful, and they do a fantastic job with it. It's very cost effective, and it works great for drainage. It's lovely. Your mid-range option, if you want, you can put gravel or pea gravel in the bottom of your raised beds as well, if that's something that appeals to you. There is a cost associated. I want to say most of my quotes here will be for a 4 to 8 foot raised bed. So we're talking maybe $30 to fill the bottom, to put a layer on the bottom. And your pro tip for you here is that you can layer multiple materials within that bottom layer. So that's going to give your water even more channels for drainage, and it's going to keep your costs down. So let's say you wanted to do a bit of gravel, but you couldn't afford to do your entire lower third. You could put gravel in the very bottom, then you can do some composted leaf mulch, maybe some branches on top of that. It really is something for you to consider, that you've got a lot of flexibility here in this foundation layer. But the foundation layer is quite important for what it needs to do. So that's why I wanted to address this right now. So we've got drainage, like we said, it matters a lot. Your free options are sticks, branches, old logs down in the bottom, and you can combine those. Your low cost options are going to be fallen leaves, leaf mulch. You could put cardboard down, newspaper as well. Those are not free, but they don't have a ton of cost involved. And then your gravel or pea gravel that you have is going to be something that you can use per 4x8 bed. Maybe it costs between $30 and $50. Like we said before, you can layer these and save on your costs. Where should I put myself? This is a very full slide. Here, I'll move myself around a little bit. Okay, so let's talk about the different ways that we can fill our beds in a budget-friendly way. The first method is the lasagna method. This is going to cost you anywhere between $0 and $30 per bed. And it just means that you have layers of cardboard, straw, leaves, grass clippings, and compost that are stacked like lasagna until you build up the height that you need to grow in your bed. And this option, while it is rather cheap, takes a long time. And so it's best for two groups: very patient gardeners who don't have to have food available right now, or they're not growing something that is to be sold right now. So you need to be patient, or you can do this for fall prep. What can be a beautiful thing to do is you want to do this method one in the fall. Let's say you want to prep your beds for spring planting, but you've got some time. Go ahead and do the lasagna method. That can work for you because it does require a lot of time. Method two, we're going to do a straw bale garden bed. So what we're doing is we're buying a few straw bales. You can break them in two. You can break them down in different layers. Or just use them whole, and then you can surround them with soil. And this is best for folks who need a quick setup. You need to grow in something fast, and you can throw a little bit of money at it. As these things decompose, they add nutrients, but it's very important that for this straw bale garden that you add nutrients before you plant into it, because straw on its own is mostly carbon. Please don't use hay. Hay has seeds. A straw bale is the best way for you to go here. And I want you to put anywhere between a half cup to a cup on and in each bale before you plant into them, because they haven't broken down yet. And you need some nitrogen in there to jumpstart that process that won't take away from your plants. So that's an option for you. It's not the option that I chose for myself, but it's definitely out there. And depending on the price of your straw bales, you can take up a lot of space. with these, and then you can fill in with soil in the surrounding area. And so as that straw breaks down, it's mixing with that soil. So again, it's best for people who need a quick initial setup but are okay with it breaking down over time, and you reduce the total soil volume that you need. So you're actually taking the space, the volume that the straw takes up, and it's much cheaper for you that way. So it's the same volume of soil would be much more costly. So method 2 is sort of helping you out with a straw bale to take up space and cost less money. Method 3 are to use any of your municipal resources that you have. If you live in an area that has any kind of free compost from city programs, wood chip programs, from tree services like Chip Drop or I think it's Chip Drop or any of those kinds of things, and then leaf mold from fall collection, those are municipal resources. That is what I use. Again, that's the black gold that I use. I can fill the back of a regular pickup truck for $20, and that's about a cubic yard. And that's it's about between $20 and $30 for a cubic yard. I think I price it out at like a buck a cubic foot or something like that, which would equal $27 per cubic yard. Very cost effective, very, very good stuff. And to be honest with you, this composted leaf mulch just works wonders in clay soil, which is what I have. And when you put it on there, and I put probably 2 to 3 inches of composted leaf mulch on each of my garden beds, do it twice a year in the market garden. And that is really the only organic matter that I need to add to the soil. It is that good, and it's cheap. It's inexpensive, I should say, and it's worth every penny. So I recommend that you guys take a look at that. Now, on to our mid-range options. Now, this is a kind of a 1/3 method, and this is going to cost about $150 to $250 per 4x8 bed, around there. You can get it for cheaper, you can get it for more expensive. It just depends on what the costs are where you live. So this is the kind of thing we're doing here. The very bottom, we're going to put coca coir. So you used to be able to get those big bales of peat moss. That is an endangered item. If we use it too much, it's going to go away forever. So what we need to do is balance that with using coca coir. So I've moved everything over to coca coir, which is like a coconut strands from coconuts, and it works really well. So then you're doing 1/3 of coca coir, then you've got 1/3 compost, and then 1/3 for topsoil. And then you're going to put your topsoil and compost, whichever one you want to put on top is up to you. So those are things that will help you, again, layer your bed and give you the best fertility. You're balancing that fertility with nutrients and money. So we're talking about maybe up between $150 to $200. Bulk delivery. This is a garden soil or like a raised bed mix by the yard. Okay. And so I did do some of that as my solution that I'll share with you soon here is that I used some of this, and I priced it, or I was able to calculate that, yes, my 4x8 bed that's a foot deep would use 1 cubic yard of that. And that garden soil is about $200 delivered. So here you can get it even cheaper if you have a landscaping company nearby and it's just topsoil or something like that. You definitely can buy those and make it really cheap. So the bulk delivery option is really good for situations where you've got to make a garden bed fast. You maybe don't have anything else at your disposal, and you have some landscaping companies nearby that can dump a large amount. You have space for it. You can see here, this is a dump truck. They've got lots of bulk soil delivery. So we're talking about a per cubic yard cost of $75 to $100, or $40 to $60. This is kind of on the cheaper side as a quote. This was some of the research that I did back in the day from some things. You can find some things cheap, end of season sales, but this is definitely on the lower side for what that might cost you. And finally, we're going to go to a premium method. So the premium way to fill your beds is to really just be like, look, I don't have time. I have money, more money than time. I'm just going to take this bed, and I want to have a nice looking garden bed that's ready to plant in. And I'm not really concerned about how much it costs. Pre-bagged raised bed specific mixes are going to cost you somewhere between $300 and $500 to fill a 4x8 bed. They're high quality. They're ready to use. It's when your time is worth more than money. It's when you have very small space gardens that are going to be planted intensively, and you don't really have time for the nutrients to break down. You really need high nutrients now. And if that's the case, then this could work for you. If you're growing high value crops or you have specialty plants with very specific soil needs, that's when you would use this. And you also would be looking at premium amendments in this category. We're talking worm castings, mycorrhizal fungi, rock dust, any of those things. You certainly can go that route, and people do. People do that all the time. Again, it's going to cost you. So as you can see, we've gone through a lot of these guys. I'm going to move my head off the screen here so we can see. This is your cost companion or cost comparison, not companion. It's your cost comparison chart. And this just gives you a visual breakdown of everything that we talked about and the cost in dollars and as to what you might spend for a standard 4x8 raised bed. What you need to look at. So this is just considering your cost. You've got your free stuff, your hugelkultur, which is your sticks and logs, municipal sources. Then you've got low cost lasagna method options. Cardboard plus compost is another low cost. Your straw bale garden, sort of on the mid range. Your 1/3 method, which is where I landed, and I'll show you exactly what I did. So the mid range option is like a 1/3. You're going to break that bed down into 3 layers, and you're going to put the materials in there that suit what needs to happen at that layer to give you the maximum cost efficiency. What can also be a mid-range option is a bulk delivery of a topsoil or compost or filled. I hesitate to say fill dirt because I don't think that fill dirt is great in raised beds. It's really can be really waterlogged if you have a heavy fill dirt. So premium all the way up here to $275 up to $500. We're looking at pre-bagged mixes and specialty amendments. Now, some, depending on what you've got to look at some other implications. Cost is not the only factor to think about. Longevity. How long is it before you'll need to replace or significantly amend your beds? Okay. How long does this need to last for you before you top it off? And then what other kinds of amendments do you need? Those have a cost associated. If you have chosen an option that gives you fertility up front, but then has to constantly be amended with more nutrients, then you need to include that in your calculations. And then crop yield. If you need to understand how crop yield can be affected. If you have a lot of wood chips or logs in your bed, that is going to tie up your nitrogen over time, and you will need to give your beds some fast hits of nitrogen over that, say, first season or so before things start to get to decompose and it adds its own fertility back. And then the time investment. How much time do you have? Like, which of these options are going to be faster for you? If you've got enough time, if you've got all the time in the world, just take a look at all of those. And when you balance all of that together, a lot of people find that the lasagna method and those municipal resources give you the best bang for your buck when it comes to filling up that soil, filling up that volume with enough nutrient that doesn't cost as much money. So it gives a great balance there. So that's something for you to think about. And let's talk about some money saving tips, hacks. You can time your soil purchases. So if you shop for soil and amendments during some of the end of season sales, you can get discounts of up to 50%. You also can take the long view of this and start with basic materials and improve your soil quality every season by adding compost and organic matter a little bit every year a few times a year. And that's what we do in the large garden. And we have a beautiful black soil there that just nobody believes that it's clay soil because it has so much organic matter in it. You also can rely on your community sources. You can start checking your garden clubs, Facebook Marketplace, and if you have any kind of exchange or barter groups, you can look into those to see if there are any free or very low cost materials that you can barter for. And then you also can make your own compost, right? You can save yourself a bit of money by taking those recycled kitchen scraps and plant waste and all of that and mix that in with leaves and whatnot to really create your own compost over time. Now, that is a long-term solution to help yourself, but it's one that really closes the loop. It feels really good to compost your waste and just know that you are saving as much money as possible. And finally, a really good hack to use, and we've kind of touched on this, is that 50% fill method. You You can fill the bottom half of the bed with all the free stuff you can find, wood chips, wood logs, branches, whatever you have on hand. And then just save the top half for good soil or some of those mid-range options in the top half where your roots will be. Okay. And so that will work for you, especially in the deeper beds that you might have. So let's switch gears finally. We're toward the end of the video. What did I choose for my beds? Now, I've shown you pictures of these. There's videos here that you can see. I'm filling them with various things. So here's what I did. For my raised bed garden filling materials, I did 1/3 clay soil and pulverized wood. This, as you can see here, was left over from when our trees fell. So we had folks come in, cut the trees up, they ground the stumps down for us, and they asked me if I wanted to keep any of this soil. It's a lot of soil, it's a lot of wood, sawdust, but it's also some bits of wood and small branches. And it's really root material. And I said, of course, because I have beds I want to fill now that I get sun. And that's the bottom third. And so that's free to us. You may not have access to this, but if you do a chip drop or you talk to anybody in the industry who's doing wood or cutting down trees for a living, they might have some of this for you that they would be willing to drop off. So that's a third. The middle third is composted leaf mulch that I bought from Keep Gastonia Beautiful. And the top third is the soil cubed compost. I bought a cubic yard of that, and that will fill 3 large raised beds. That will top off 3 large raised beds. I believe my total growing space with that is around 32, that's 64. It's close to 80 square feet of bed space. And that sling of soil cubed will cover it. Let's take a look at the compost type materials and the cost per cubic foot. The Soil 3 compost that I'm putting in one bed, this is for a 4x8 bed, will cost around $81. That's based on what I paid for it and for 10 cubic feet. So 10 cubic feet of that cube, the soil I put in my 32 square foot raised bed is $81. The leaf mulch in that same bed is the middle layer. That middle layer of 10 cubic feet cost $8 all total. So you can see the difference in cost here. We're talking a 10-time difference between $80 and $8. And that's how I've used volume. 2/3 of the bed volume is taken up by something that was free or super low cost. Now, here again, you see a graphic that kind of gives you the cost in a visual representation. The cheapest is the clay soil and the pulverized wood. It was on hand. And then what I did to sort of help myself, because I know that the wood in that is going to tie up my nitrogen, and I don't want that to happen. So what I did was I took some Harmony, like a few scoops full of Harmony from Seven Springs Farm Supply. It's their granulated fertilizer. It's organic. And the amount that I used was about $7 or $8 per bed. I sprinkled that over the top of the soil and pulverized wood. That is to add back nitrogen into that bed. And so over time, in about 2 to 3 weeks, that's going to start to break down and start to become available for my plants. So on top of that is the composted leaf mulch. And that, again, like I said, is $8 for that 10 cubic feet that goes in my bed. So that's $8 a bed. And then the soil cubed is about $80. So if you want to compile or if you want to add up all those numbers, it's about $100 for a single 32 square foot 4x8 raised bed. And that is a great balance, in my opinion. It was a great balance between timing, fertility, and money to get me what I needed for these beds so that I could start growing as fast as possible, but then also set myself up for success so that I'm not leaching nutrients out of the soil at a rate that I couldn't put them back. There you have it, guys. That's exactly how I filled my beds. But along the way, I've also shared with you some ways that you could fill your beds. So I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please give this video a like. It lets the algorithm know that it should show this video to people who like things like this. So that'd be helping me out so much. And as always, I know that you could be anywhere today and you chose to be here with me, and I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, and bye for now.